Good morning, everyone. This is Paul Watzlawick, Director of the East Asia Pacific Media Hub here in Tokyo. Thank you for being with us today. We have a very special guest today on our teleconference, Admiral Samuel Locklear, Commander of U.S. Pacific Command. I'd like to introduce the format and then have Admiral Locklear make his opening remarks. Today we have journalists from around the region participating in the call. All participants are currently muted. When you want to ask a question, please press 9-1 on your handset and you will be loaded into the queue. We will then unmute you and notify you when it's time to ask your question. We have approximately 45 minutes today for the teleconference. We'd like to keep our our questions brief to give the Admiral time to answer everyone that we can get in today. So thank you very much again for your participation. And Admiral Locklear, I turn it over to you for your opening comments, sir.
Well, thank you, Paul, for that introduction, and thanks to all of you who have made time for this call today. I'm told we have a diverse group of more than 60 people from throughout the Asia Pacific that span about 15 nations, with many of our smaller island nations joining a call like this for the first time. It's humbling to see your interest in what we're doing here at PACOM, and I hope you'll find today's discussion informative. And a special thanks to the folks at East Asia and Pacific Media Hub for arranging this unique opportunity. Before taking your questions, I'd like to share my thoughts on the Asia Pacific, where I see opportunities for cooperation or where potential challenges exist. I've been in command of the U.S. Pacific Command for almost a year now. And during that time, I've grown in my appreciation of the diverse complexity that exists. As you may know, the Asia Pacific encompasses over half the Earth's surface and well more than half of its population. It's incredibly socially, culturally, economically, and geopolitically diverse. The many nations who associate themselves here include 2 of the 3 largest economies in the world, 7 of the 10 smallest, the most populous nation in the world's largest democracy, the world's largest Muslim majority nation, the smallest republic in the world, 9 of the 10 world's largest ports, and the busiest sea lanes in the world, with over $8 trillion of two-way trade, with half the world's container cargo and 70% of shipborne energy passing through the Asia Pacific every day. It is also the most militarized area in the world. 7 of the world's 10 largest standing militaries, the world's largest and most sophisticated navies are in the Asia Pacific, and 5 of the world's declared nuclear nations are here. All of these aspects of the Asia Pacific, when you take them and sum them all together, result in a unique strategic complexity. And of course, this complexity is magnified by a wide, diverse group of challenges that can significantly stress the security environment. Let me just name a few of them. First, climate change. Climate change is impacting our weather. It's impacting sea levels. It's impacting the future security of many nations in the region, and we must understand it and must understand how to deal with it when the time comes. Transnational non-state threats such as violent extremist organizations, terrorist organizations, drug flow, human capital, those type of things will continue to probably give us problems. There are historic and emerging border and territorial disputes. Access and freedom of action in the shared domains of sea, space, and cyber are becoming increasingly challenged. It looks like instability on the Korean Peninsula will persist. And of course, how the rise of China and India as global economic powers and regional military powers emerge, and how they integrate into an established, generally peaceful and stable security environment is yet to be seen. And adding to this picture, a recognition that no single governance mechanism exists in the Asia Pacific to manage the relationships and provide a framework for conflict resolution. That's why I think the U.S. rebalance strategy is important to the Asia Pacific. It is the foundation for the many opportunities for cooperation the United States have with our allies, partners, and friends in the Asia Pacific. Our strategy draws on the strengths of the entire U.S. government, including policy, diplomacy, trade, and of course security, which is the area that I work in. But I want to stress that this is a whole of government, a whole of people approach to the Asia Pacific. It's not just about the military piece of this, which we seem to focus on. Now, there's been significant speculation and skepticism about the U.S. rebalance. Let me just say this. The rebalance is a strategy of collaboration and cooperation. And the keystone of our rebalance will be to use that strategy of collaboration to modernize and strengthen our 5 Pacific Treaty alliances, and this work is moving ahead in earnest. From the military commander's perspective, I can tell you that our alliances, the United States only has 7 treaty allies in the world, 5 are in the Asia Pacific. And that these alliances bring with them years of mutual trust and respect, significant interoperability and information sharing, a common view of regional security landscapes and challenges, and they provide a very good base from which multilateral relationships can grow, like what we're seeing today, all of which will continue to underpin U.S. security objectives in the Asia Pacific for decades to come. And while modernizing or strengthening our bilateral relationships, we're also going to strengthen our commitment to our partners in the region and to multilateral forums such as ASEAN and the East Asia Summit. We'll pursue a lasting relationship with China, including a military-to-military relationship. Our 2 countries have a strong stake in regional peace and stability and an interest in building a cooperative bilateral relationship. We're hoping to look past those areas where we differ and to focus our relationship on our converging interests, such as counter-piracy, counterterrorism, protecting sea lanes of communication, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief response, just to name a few. So today there's nearly 350,000 U.S. military personnel serving forward, living in the Asia Pacific, and with them nearly 70,000 family members, all of whom continue to demonstrate significant U.S. commitment to our allies and partners. Let me close my opening remarks by just saying this. America is a Pacific power. Sometimes I think that folks in Asia Pacific look to the east and they see a partner that is a long ways away. We are a Pacific power. Not only are we on the Pacific, but we also have historic ties, economic ties here that it's important for everyone to recognize that we have significant interest as a nation in the Asia Pacific that we think will continue for decades to come. So I look forward to cooperating and working together with all of our friends, our allies, our partners in building a security environment that for this amazing region will provide hope, peace, and security for our children and our grandchildren. So I'll pause there now and answer your questions.
Admiral, thank you very much for those opening remarks. We're going to go now to our journalists around the region who are participating. What we're going to do is we're going to unmute you, identify you, but we'd like you also to state your name and your affiliation. So the first call, Admiral, will be from Guangzhou, China, KDNet. Caller, please identify yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Kokonan. I'm an educator from Kaidi, EBS. I'm happy to have this chance to ask you a question. My question is, what will the United States do if they were to establish a sustainable relationship with the developing country in order to improve their human rights?
Which country? Yeah, would you repeat the question? I understood what would the United States do in which country for human rights?
The developing country.
No. Yeah.
Developing.
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you for your question. And I'm glad to hear you're coming in from Guangzhou. I was recently in Guangzhou on a mill-to-mill relationship counterpart visit, and I was unbelievably impressed by the progress I'm seeing in Guangzhou, both culturally and economically. So you're to be congratulated on that. I believe your question is, what will the U.S. do to support human rights in developing countries? I believe that the U.S. has a very good record of having policies and perspectives and taking leadership role in encouraging developing nations to first understand the responsibility to their people, the responsibility of how their government must respond to people who are free, and how their militaries must support that in a society where civilian rule is important and that human rights should be the central focus of all decisions that are made. So I think the U.S. Role in this has been pretty clear over time, and my expectation is that it will continue, and it will continue to underpin our strategy as we go forward.
Admiral, thank you for that. Our next caller today is from Indonesia, Viva News. Caller, would you please state your name and ask your question clearly, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Admiral. My name is Tony Kawilarang. I'm a journalist of vivanews.com. I'm calling you from Jakarta, Indonesia. My question is, under the comprehensive partnership signed by President Obama and President Widodo in November 2010, Indonesia and the United States are trying to expand and strengthen bilateral security partnership, including maritime security cooperation. How has this cooperation progressed over the years? And as a Pacific military commander, what programs do you expect to be happening this year between PECOM and PNI? Thank you.
Well, thank you for that great question. It's true, our presidents have signed an agreement with each other that gives us specific directions on how we as military and government officials must progress together on the great partnership that we have with the great nation of Indonesia. Just as it's fortuitous you asked this question because I will leave later next week to make my official visit to Jakarta to visit with the leadership, both military and civilian leadership of Indonesia. And I very much look forward to the 3 or 4 days that I will be hosted in your country. And at that time, we will take the opportunity to ensure that the roadmap that we are on together from a mill-to-mill perspective between the U.S. and Indonesia, and the leadership role that Indonesia plays and will continue to play in your part of the world, as well as the various multilateral organizations and multilateral operations that may be going on. So we will continue to focus on those things that, number one, are important to Indonesia. I think maritime security is very important. It's important to both of us. You live in the crossroads of really one of the most important logistics sites in the world. And your leadership in that area and our support of your leadership in that area will be key as we move forward. So we have a lot of good things planned, a lot of good exercises together, as well as growing multilateral exercises as well.
Admiral, thank you for that. Our next caller is from Taiwan, TVBS. Caller, if you'd please state your name and your question. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sarah Sun and I'm from TVBS. I have a question. China and Japan are escalating on Diaoyu Island. If military actions are enforced, will U.S. step in? And also, do you support President Ma's Easy China Sea Peace Initiative? Thank you.
Well, great questions. Let me start with the second question first. It's not really my position to support or not support what President Ma and the people of Taiwan choose to do. So I will defer that question to the people of Taiwan. Your first question, though, is a good one. I think it's, first of all, I'm not going to speculate on what the U.S. would do militarily in any contingency anywhere in the world. It's just not our policy to do that. I would say, though, that in the scenario that you talked about in the East China Sea between PRC, between China and Japan, Let me make sure everybody's clear. First, the U.S. does not take sides in territorial disputes anywhere in the world, except on the ones that we may have of our own. But we don't take sides on those. But what we do expect, as we expect in any region, is that these disputes will be done in a fashion that is peaceful, without coercion, and that it ultimately will be satisfied and decided between the governments and without military intervention. So that's our hope. What's at stake here in the Asia Pacific from a security perspective, from an economic, from a human capital perspective, to even contemplate that there would be use of force in these type of issues, I think is really unacceptable. We need to be thinking and having our dialogue talk about how we are going to work together to produce a security environment that allows us to get through these disagreements we have with each other, because they will continue. This just the nature of humanity.
Admiral, thank you for that. Our next question is from Fiji, the Fiji Sun. Caller, if you please state your name and your question, please. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Our country is about to go into elections, and there are reforms in place, and also the drafting of our constitution. Any plans from your country to help us in this move?
Well, good to hear you from Fiji. You live in one of the most beautiful parts of the world, so we're envious of you. I believe that your question was that you are moving towards your elections here, expected I think in 2014. And I would say that the PACOM perspective, and I believe the U.S. perspective, is that we are encouraged. We encourage and we are encouraged by Fiji's progress towards free and fair democratic elections. And we look forward to re-engaging in Fiji there soon. And we wish you well. This can be difficult sometimes, we understand. And I'm sure that all Americans join me in hoping that your elections serve the people of Fiji well.
Admiral, thank you. Our next question is from Malaysia, Berita Harian. Caller, please state your name and your question for the Admiral, please. Thank you.
Good morning, Admiral. My name is Nur Hazrin from Berita Harian. I'm from Kuala Lumpur. Again, this is regarding the East and Southeast Asia dispute. What is your approach on to ease the tension, and whether are you going to push for treaty, or is it basically on humanitarian assistance? Can you explain?
Yeah, I think that I understood the question. You're talking about the current tensions that are in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, and what are our intentions? Well, I think our first intention is to ensure that we maintain a good dialogue between our allies and our partners, including with China and all the countries that are affected by this type of concern in the maritime domain. That we do good information sharing, so we all have a sense of what's going on. That we continue to encourage that the disputes and the activities that each country undertakes be done with law enforcement, maritime fishery patrol, those types of things, and not to introduce military hardware aspects into it that might lead to miscalculation. So we're trying to do all we can to manage the environment, to help the security environment, so that we don't have a miscalculation that then causes this to go in a direction we don't want it to go. Now, we're also very much interested in the multilateral cooperation of the countries in the region, their leadership in this. A code of conduct would go a long ways. in helping the nations in the region deal with their differences as the governments work out the long-term solutions. So we're very much in favor of a code of conduct, and we would be certainly willing to assist in facilitate that as possible. Now, in the area of human assistance and disaster relief that you mentioned, this problem goes well beyond any territorial dispute that we'll be talking about. We're talking about bringing together nations, the powers of nations, including their military power, to be able to quickly and effectively assist where we can in the response of large natural disasters. Whether it's a tsunami in Indonesia, an earthquake in Japan, a storm in the United States, pick something, anywhere in this region, we want to ensure that we have the right level of cooperation, that we thought through the processes of how we can bring assistance quickly as militaries, because in crisis, particularly humanitarian crisis, the militaries can bring things quickly to restore hope, to bring order to the problem, so that the other government agencies can then respond and to get ahead and to get control of the crisis. So this idea of learning how to cooperate for human assistance and disaster relief is a great idea, and it's the right idea, and it's the future of the security environment here in the Asia Pacific. I'm convinced.
Admiral, thank you. Our next question is from Australia, the Australian. Caller, please identify yourself and state your question. Thank you.
Hello, Admiral. Thanks very much. My name is Brendan Nicholson. I'm Defence Editor of the Australian newspaper. I'm based in Canberra. There's been much talk of the US pivot rebalancing, or whatever the terminology is currently. Clearly, Australia has a very intense interest in this. The marine training component across the north of Australia is going to increase over time to something like 2,500 personnel. Now, we're very interested to know just how the United States military in particular sees this relationship developing. How important is Australia to the hands-on military people such as yourself, and what could we expect to see in the years to come? There's been talk of increased aircraft visits, increased ship visits, and some of your think tanks, for instance, have talked about the possibility of cooperation in terms of a possible submarine base on the west coast of Australia. Just logistically, how would that work, and how feasible is it, and how important is Australia militarily to the United States?
Well, Brendan, that was a lot of questions in there, but let me see if I can frame it for you in a way that the entire audience can see our perspective. The term we use is interchangeable between rebalance and pivot, I think, depending on who you talk to, but for me it's a rebalance. If you take I challenge everyone to do this, to take the world map and to sit in your own country, make that the center of the world map, and then to look at it from that perspective. So when, as a PACOM commander, I go down to Canberra and I sit and I look at the world map from Australia being the center of it, I get a very different view than I get when I look at it from Hawaii or from Washington, D.C. And I start to have a sense of the things and the security environment that concern the people of Australia, as well as people of Indonesia and India and other countries. And I start to see, first, the growing importance of the Indian Ocean. And we're really going to go well beyond eventually talking only about the Asia Pacific. It's really about the Indo-Asia Pacific because of how connected the world is and how important these large bodies of water are and the countries around them are to the security and the prosperity of future generations. So when we look at our relationship with Australia, number one, a very good, close ally. Historically, has been alongside the U.S. In many times in the past, and I think hopefully will continue in the future. And as we look at the security challenges, whether it's climate change or HADR, Human Assisted Disaster Relief, or whether it's maritime security, or whether it's cyber security, or whether it's space security, all those things, I view from the PACOM headquarters here that Australia is a critical pillar of the strategy we have here in this theater, and we will continue to operate closely. Now, where we're going to have ship visits and those type of things, I think is not really relevant to the discussion here. What really is relevant is, first of all, for the whole audience, is that the U.S. rebalance is not about establishing U.S. bases anywhere else in this theater. It is not our objective. Our objective is to build on the relationships that we have created in a relatively peaceful Asia-Pacific, Indo-Pacific for the last 60 years, and to continue to build on those, to continue to posture ourselves with our allies, with our partners, and with our emerging partners, and be able to work together to build a security environment that protects the interests of everyone. And that's including bringing a rising China into the secure environment in a way where they feel that their interests are protected, as well as that the people around them are comfortable in that environment. So, and the same could be said about India's emerging role. So, Australia, answer the question, just go there, look at the map, put Australia, and you'll see why it's important to me. Thanks, Brennan.
Admiral, thank you. Apologize for the beeps on the line. We had a few people that dropped off. We put them back on. Okay. Sir, we are about two-thirds of the way through our call. We still have a lot of people on the line, so we're going to keep moving along. We're going back to China now. The 21st Century Business Herald out of Shanghai has a call on the line. Caller, if you'd please identify yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Ling. I'm from 21st Century Business Herald, and thank you for your speech. I'd like to ask one question. In 2005, Solid proposed that China should be a responsible stakeholder, but 5 years later, Hillary suggested to rebalance China. So in your opinion, what's the difference between these two expressions, and what factors make the U.S. make such a great change? Thank you.
Well, let me just, I won't comment on what Secretary Clinton said specifically because I don't have it in front of me. But I think your question is what are the things that as China grows as a regional and a world economic power and a regional security partner, from my perspective as PACOM, what can they do? What can China do better or what can we do better, all of us do better, to work together to allow China to assume the position that they need to assume? First, I think we should make sure that we have a robust dialogue, both economically, politically, and militarily. So we're working hard at the military piece of it, because it's important that the U.S. military presence in the Asia-Pacific and the Chinese military PLA presence, that we don't have miscalculations, that we understand each other. And we're working to do that. We have good dialogues. We have good cross visits with each other. We have invited the Chinese Navy to come to Hawaii for Rim of the Pacific exercise in 2014. It's the world's largest exercise. It has 22 nations. And these types of things are great opportunities for us to get to know each other and to build trust and cooperation and to understand how we operate together. So from the military side, I think that using those opportunities to build trust. I think also that China has an opportunity here as they emerge to be a real world leader, to be a real regional leader. I think they have the opportunity as they look at their core interests and core values, and that they look at how to secure those, just like all countries do, is that they recognize their leadership role and that they find peaceful mechanisms to be able to help their neighbors and to help the rest of the world work through these. And I sense that that's happening. So I think, given beyond the immediate friction areas in the world or in the Asia Pacific today, I'm confident that we're going to be able to, if we continue to work together, be able to assimilate China into the security environment in a way that's good for China and is good for the rest of the region, as well as good for the United States, so that we all have room to prosper here. Again, I go back to it. The world belongs to everyone, and we all have now, because we're globalized, all of us have interest around the world, and we have to figure out how to live in that world together in a productive, safe, prosperous way.
Admiral, thank you. We have Korea on the line, the YTN network. Caller, if you could please identify yourself, state your question. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kim Tae-kwang. I am a reporter for YTN. It's a cable TV news channel in Seoul, Korea. My question is about North Korea nuclear issue. A couple of points. First, can I get your current assessment on the possible North Korean nuclear test? Is it imminent? Have you found out any movement around there in North Korea? And the second point is general assessment on North Korean nuclear capability in terms of the size and the weight of the weapon. Do you think their weapons are small and light enough to put them on a long-range rocket? And lastly, what can be the possible military response if they conduct the nuclear test? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for those questions. I'm going to have to say on most of them that it's not our policy, nor I think the policy of the South Korean military to talk about military contingencies that we may or may not plan for events. But let me talk about the North Korea and their test. Certainly, the statements that North Korea is making would lead you to believe that they are desirous of another test. And these statements are provocative, and I believe we all agree that a test would be a significant violation of the UN Security Council resolutions. These type of provocations that we have seen in the past would only increase Pyongyang's isolation, and its continued focus on its nuclear program and missile program is really not doing anything to help the North Korean people, which I understand need help. So we'll remain in close consultation with our South Korea and our other allies, and continue to monitor the threat of a nuclear test from North Korea, and as well as any possible threats to the U.S. or to our allies. Now, the U.S. closely monitors all threats to the international security environment, and of course we have the capability to respond if and when that's appropriate. So we're not really going to talk about military options, plans, or intelligence. However, we do stand ready to defend U.S. territory, our allies, and our national interest. So I guess the message I think that I'd like to, from a PACOM perspective, is that as you look at it from the Asia Pacific security environment, the activities in North Korea have the potential to be very disruptive to the safe and secure security environment that I think all of us want. And the international community, we've got to do all we can to get North Korea to start behaving within the UN Security Council resolution requirements.
Admiral, thank you. We're going to go to Vietnam now. We have a caller from Toi Tre newspaper. Caller, please identify yourself and state your question clearly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Admiral, for your time. It's Tuan from the newspaper in Saigon. I have several questions for you. First, in ASEAN, it's clearly that they torn between two competing powers, one established and one rising. And without clear orders, all the countries are feeling very nervous about China's every move, and they all feel threatened by China. At the same time, they feel that U.S. pivot remain in words instead of real commitment. What's your take on this? The second is that what will be the next direction for U.S.-Vietnam military cooperation? Will the U.S. plan to have any other military base in Philippines or Vietnam in the near future? And the last question is that it seems that the U.S. have so many concerns right now in North Africa, in Middle East, and many other places. Is it a little bit overstretched for the U.S. to be present at so many fronts in both Asia and everywhere? Thank you, Admiral.
Okay, well, let me see if I can address those. First, the first question I think you asked was about the potential tension between established power. I assume you meant the United States, and the rise of a China or another power, and how is that going to work? I think the key here that I'd like to make is that as that occurs, and it's going to occur, that we have to manage the competition between a rising power and an already established power. And that can be done. I'm convinced it can be done. But it has to be done in a way where we don't, when we have things that we don't agree on, that we don't lead to miscalculation, that we find the places where our interests converge. And in relation to I'll talk about the Chinese and the United States, but I think it relates to every nation in this region, is the areas where our interests converge are infinite. The areas where they diverge or which causes friction are limited. And those limited areas, in the world we're in today, we should be able to have mechanisms to work through that. So, to the degree that ASEAN now is attempting to work through some of the issues around territorial disputes and code of conduct, I think that it's incumbent upon all nations in the world to support the peoples of this area, including China and nations of ASEAN, to encourage them to try to get to a way they can work through their differences without creating miscalculation and disrupting the security environment. The second question about where are we with our relationship with Vietnam. Earlier this month, we conducted a very successful defense policy dialogue in Hanoi. We discussed new and innovative ways to grow our bilateral relationship, search and rescue, maritime security, humanitarian disaster relief, and we're very positive about our growing relationship with Vietnam, and we hope to continue increasing our bilateral ties so that, again, to help secure regional peace and prosperity. Now, to your question about whether are there any bases planned in the Philippines or in Vietnam or others, I go back to my earlier comment to all of you. The U.S. has no intention of establishing more bases. What we hope to do with our partners, allies, and friends is to continue to operate closely, to work closely military to military, government to government, economy to economy, and to ensure that U.S. presence, the people here in the region are aware of it, that they're assured by it. Because, if you think about the last 60 years, this part of the world has been pretty safe. It's had a few places where it wasn't, but it's been pretty safe. And I believe part of that security was underpinned by a United States who was interested in the Pacific. And I think that the United States is interested in the coming century in the Pacific and in the Indian Ocean will be a good thing for overall security. Now, the question of are we overstretched? I think certainly, after when the Berlin Wall came down, and then the aftermath of that, and then follow on a few years later by 9/11, and the role the U.S. leadership took in what we would call the global war on terrorism, that pulled us very heavily into some very costly operations, good operations, well-intentioned operations, well-needed but costly. that it has in somewhat directed our focus to the Middle East. And so now after 10 years over there, after Iraq and now after Afghanistan, we are taking a hard look at what does our military look like in the future, just as all nations do. We're looking hard at where are our interests for the future, where are our key interests, and many of those questions point us to the Asia Pacific. So the whole idea of our rebalance should be a signal to the people in this region that the American people understand how important Asia Pacific is to them. So to the question of whether we're overstretched, no matter what we look like in the future, it will be imperative for the U.S., because of the strength of our interest in this region, for us to remain actively engaged here as a good partner, as a good ally, and as a good friend of all countries in this region.
Admiral, thank you. We have time for one last question. I'd like to offer it to Yomiuri Shimbun, one of our Japanese partners. They're on the line. Caller, if you could please state your name and ask your question of the Admiral, and then after that, Admiral, we'll give you a chance to make some concluding comments before we wrap up. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, this is Matiko Yanada of the Yomiuri Shimbun. Although I'm based in Jakarta, I'm from Japanese newspaper Yomiuri Shimbun. Thank you for this opportunity. My question is about multilateral cooperation through the Indo-Pacific region. If we look through all the Indo-Pacific region, I think in East Asia part, ASEAN-centered organizations are the basis for the multilateral cooperation and dialogue. But if we look at Indian Ocean or Pacific Ocean itself, I don't see I can see any organization as active as those kind of ASEAN-centered organizations. So, in terms of military perspective, how will United States reinvigorate the current existing organizations or making that kind of mechanism? Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a great question and a very insightful question. If you look at, remember I started off my remarks about the size of this area of the world and the complexity of it and the differences. I mean, when you can go from the the Straits of Hormuz in the Middle East to the coast of California, and from the north to the South Pole, with well over half the people in the world and certainly the largest center of gravity for economic growth. There is no simple answer, I think, to a security organization, one security organization that will work because it's too diverse. So the model that sometimes people will ask me, they'll say, well, why don't you have a NATO in the Indo-Asia Pacific? I've served in NATO before. It's a fine organization, but I don't see a parallel here. I see rather what I refer to as a patchwork or a patchwork quilt, I call it, of security relationships in various parts of this vast region that work together to be able to sense and understand where the security environment is and to work together to ensure that the environment is strong enough to withstand any shocks that may occur to it, whether it's a natural disaster or some other type of contingency. So we have some fairly relatively mature relationships, as you mentioned. ASEAN is one of them. In the Indian Ocean, those are developing. And many of those are developing under the leadership of Indian Ocean countries, as well as, for instance, India is taking a leadership role in working to deal with some of these security networks, and we welcome that. I think that if I looked at PACOM's role in this, as we go into the future, the U.S. role, it is not to own and dictate each of these security relationships. It's to be a valuable partner. Is to assist with resources and assist with training and experience where we can. and then to ensure that to the best we can that all of the various regions of the security organizations are all kind of working towards the same end state. And I believe we're headed in that direction in a good way.
Admiral, thank you so much for your valuable time today. And callers, participants, thank you very much for being with us. Admiral, do you have any final remarks? And if not, we very much appreciate you being with us and look forward to working with you in the future.
No, Paul, I just want to, again, thank all of you for and just you taking the time to try to understand the complexity of the security environment and to hear it from me. And I'm hopefully you're out talking to the other military commanders and the other the key countries that are in this region and getting their perspectives. I believe we all have kind of a similar perspective about this, and that we ought to be working towards peace and prosperity instead of just always seeming to work on the areas where we have the most friction, even though I know those will continue. So I'm sitting here in Hawaii. It's beautiful and sunny. I hope that's true of where you are. And if you get a chance to come to Hawaii, we'll give you a good aloha. So thank you very much.